This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by Mikaela Mayer over Zoom. Mikaela, it's always a pleasure. How's life treating you?
Everything's going good. I'm excited the fight has finally been announced. I've been waiting for it. My first fight date got pushed back, so um, a little bit of a hiccup, but it's out there. I'm already halfway through camp. Everything's going good, and yeah, I'm ready to get back in there.
Let's obviously jump straight into it. You mentioned that April 15th, you'll be back on British shores when you face Christina Linardatou. It's on the Joyce-Zhang undercard. You was originally being touted as boxing on the Taylor-Serrano 2 card up until that got postponed. So just walk me through this past period where you've had to deal with the postponement, getting back into the gym, and maybe I imagine a week or so off, and just walk me through it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I started off by going to Michigan, which is where Coach Al lives, and we did the first six. It was going to be 4 weeks, but then the fight got pushed back, so we made it 6 weeks. And then I came home to break for a week, and I head back to camp. Or I'm actually moving camp to Vegas to train with Coach K. So I'll be there in a couple days. So 6 weeks, a little bit of a 1 week break, and then we'll go right back in for the last. I think it's like 7 weeks away. So perfect timing.
Very different environment, Vegas. What's prompted you to move out there for camp?
So, Coach Al, is my head coach, but we usually have Coach K or Coach Red there for mitt work and stuff. And they're both deciding to do their camp out in Las Vegas because all these guys, all the young guys, Shakur, you got Keyshawn, Jared, all of them are on the April 8th card in Newark, New Jersey. So they're all going out there. So it's gonna be fun. I'll be joining their camp. We'll be running, training together in Vegas. That was their decision, but I need Coach K or Red for some mitt work and stuff like that. So Coach Al agreed to go out there. He doesn't usually like to switch things up, so I'm surprised he's okay with it, but it'll be a good camp.
I'm sure it will be. And as you mentioned, Christina Linardatou too. Why Christina then, Mikaela? For this fight for you, why Christina?
Well, my original ask of Top Rank, I immediately called them after my fight or talked to my manager and I was like, please tell Top Rank, I want to fight ASAP. So a little bit longer. There's been a little bit of a gap from my last fight, longer than I wanted, but some other reasons. But I said, get me a fight ASAP and get me a fight against a top contender. Like, I don't want an easy fight. I don't want a filler fight. None of that. I'm like in my prime. I'm feeling great. I want to prove that I'm still the best. Get me a fight against a top contender. Get me Delphine Pursoon. And they are like, okay. So they went after Delphine Pursoon, but she was unavailable because she has a 2-fight deal, I guess, in Dubai that she wants to fulfill, or at least her team wants to fulfill. And so that was a bummer because I was really hoping that I was going to get that fight. And since I didn't get that, I was like, all right, well, what's the next best option? This is boxing, but for me, it's my career. But it's also at the end of the day, it's entertainment, right? So to kind of keep that entertainment factor alive, I'm like, let's go for Linardatou. She's a top contender. She beat Baumgardner. A little bit of a, you know, keep the rivalry alive sort of tactic, but also it's exciting for the fans, I think, that they can sort of follow the story that way by saying, she's the one to beat Baumgartner, blah, blah, blah. And she's tough. She's was the WBO, or she was mandatory for Chantel Cameron at 140. And she ended up taking the fight with me instead. I can only assume that maybe she just got a better offer to do that. But yeah, she's a top contender and someone I definitely want to test myself against. And like I said, no easy fights from here on out.
So you mentioned test yourself against her. What does she bring out of you come April 15th?
So I like a fighter like Linardatou. She's aggressive, she comes forward, and that sort of brings the best out of me. We've all seen me go against aggressive fighters like Hamadouche, but I wouldn't say she's a Hamadouche. No one is a Hamadouche. She's unique in her own style, but she definitely wants to tough come forward. Her only 2 losses are to Katie Taylor, are to Delphine Pursoon and Katie Taylor. So yeah, I'm just expecting a tough fight. I can use a little bit of all my skills. I feel like at this point in my career, I've had all the fights to make me a really well-rounded fighter. I can box and move, and I can stay behind my jab, but I can also take it to you and bang on the inside. And so someone like Christina is going to bring a little bit of everything out in me.
Mikaela, with or without a title, there's no denying you're one of the best female athletes in and around your weight category. How difficult is it to pursue an opponent, i.e. in this case, Christina Linardatou, who matches up to your own ambitions in terms of fighting somebody at world level, because it's one of the question marks over kind of a gap between the top of the female weight classes and then everyone who's just beneath it.
What do you mean?
So how difficult is it to find an opponent who's also of the same caliber, not necessarily the same caliber in your eyes, but will challenge you and is seen as a world level fighter?
So for me, it's not that hard because I'm in a really lucky position when it comes to how many divisions I can fight in. You know, I have the height, I have the experience, and so I can go to multiple different weight classes. And there's been a little bit back and forth on social media about the idea of me and Chantel Cameron at 140. And so those are all possibilities for me. It's always been a goal of mine to sort of move up the ladder when it comes to the divisions: 130, 135, 140, then 147. And I don't want to have to skip over, because I know there's a lot of girls at 135 that could give me a great fight. And ideally, I'd love to put myself in position to be mandatory for someone like Katie Taylor. That's the goal. But I'm going to go where I'm wanted. I'm going to go where the big fights are. I'm going to go where the fans want me. And so if I jump up to Chantel Cameron sooner than later, don't be surprised. But that's where I'm sort of lucky. I have lots of places to go.
One other thing I just wanted to touch on, obviously, we mentioned earlier, you've boxed over here previously on the Sky Boxer card. Now you're boxing on a BT and a Queensbury show. What exactly is it about fighting in Britain that keeps making you want to come back?
Okay, so I feel like, and my team agrees, that I did so much work for that lead up to Mayer versus Baumgardner, and not just one lead up, but two, because the Queen had passed and we had to come back out there. And each time I went out, 2 weeks in advance. I did tons of media, and really like busted my ass to sell that fight, like really, really well. I feel like I did really, really well. And in that process, decision or not, I built a fan base and I made some noise there. And so this is me wanting to capitalize on that and continue that momentum that I built in the UK. I had the option of fighting in the US. They were going to either make me the co-main for the Robeisy Ramirez versus Dog Bay fight, which was an option to me, or I could jump on the Zhang versus Joe Joyce card. And to me, they're both on ESPN Plus, but then the Joyce card is also on BC Sport. So it was only natural for me to want to take the option where I was going to be put on two different networks and more eyes could see the fight and I could reel in more fans and make a bigger splash. So that was obvious to me. Dog Bay versus Robeisy Ramirez is a great fight. I just think that Joe Joyce versus Zhang is a greater fight, is a greater card, and provides more opportunity and eyes for me. So that's what I wanted to do.
What are your thoughts on that main event, Joe Joyce and Zhang?
What are my thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Joe Joyce fan. I'm gonna go with Joe Joyce, but I will say that I do have to study a little bit more on Zhang, because I couldn't tell you word for word a breakdown of that fight just yet. I got to watch a little bit of it, but I'm definitely rooting for Joe Joyce. He's actually out in Vegas training, so we're probably getting some workouts together, which is pretty cool since we're headlining the fight together.
Obviously, I don't imagine you'll do many interviews these days without a certain Alycia Baumgardner mentioned to you, Mikaela. Obviously, you both had a few words to say on the back of her becoming the undisputed champ back in New York. And after the fight, it was mentioned in Alycia's post-fight press conference that Eddie wanted your team and Top Rank to make them an offer for a rematch between you guys, and they wanted a lot of zeros added to that on top of what was previously offered when you did fight last year. He said that offer never came. Is it a surprise to you, or what do you make of Eddie saying that it's got to be your promoters reaching out to them?
Well, to me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, you work extremely hard as a promoter to get your fighter to become world champion. Even harder for them to become undisputed. And why? So that you can promote the biggest fights. You get the fights in your backyard, on your network, on your promotion. And so for him to finally have that with Baumgardner and to want to put it back on Top Rank, it just doesn't really make sense to me. He said that he hasn't thought about the rematch, but that's obviously a lie, because Eddie's a big promoter. He's a great promoter. He wants the big fights. He always talks about it, doing big things, putting on big shows. So you have a mega fight in your back pocket and you haven't thought about pulling it out and using it. Like, I just don't believe that. So I don't know what it is. I think that Top Rank really set the bar with what they paid us in our last fight. And, you know, we lived up to that. We lived up to that big time, if not more. Like, we really, really sold that fight. The views for everything that we did, press conference, media workout, face to face, everything we did was just, I mean, so many views. It was insane. And people really loved that fight and we really sold it. So the rematch is worth more for sure. And I just don't know if he's willing to put that up. So I think he's, you know, putting it on Top Rank to try and make the fight happen. But I mean, that's just, I mean, I'm not a promoter, but that's just not how it normally works, right?
What do you think it's going to take to get that rematch over the line with Mikaela?
I don't know. I think it'll take a little bit of time. I think it'll take time of them, you know, maybe to realize the rivalry that we had. I think that it's already realized in someone like Eddie Hearn's eyes, but I think Baumgardner is still realizing that. Sure, she's going to realize soon that how much she needs me, how much she needs a rivalry like this. We all do. It's not just talking about her, but we all do. Women's boxing does in general. So, you know, they'll come knocking eventually. I know it. And at this point, I've made it clear that I want the rematch, but that's all I can do. I'm going to go on. I'm going to continue on my career. I have a big fight ahead of me against Christina Linardatou, so I'm focused on that. And like I said before, there's a lot of different places for me to go, a lot of different divisions, a lot of top quality opponents for me to go up against. So I'm going to focus on that, and, you know, we'll see if she steps up.
Mikaela, beyond Christina Linardatou, if you could say, name me your next 3 fights beyond it, how or who rather would you like to face and in what order?
This might sound a little unrealistic because it's very fast moving, but Linardatou, Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron. Like, ideally, that would be great for me because I've always said, you know, I just re-signed with Top Rank for 3 more years. And so for me, 3 fights a year, like, they all need to be big fights. There's no reason not to. And there's a lot of top girls that I really want to challenge and test myself against. And so this is the time to do it. There's no other time than now for me. So in a perfect world, Linardatou, Katie Taylor, Chantel.
It's interesting, obviously, that Alycia doesn't even fall into that pack. Well, why is that?
Well, like I said, I've already made it clear that I want this rematch, but I can't sit here and dwell on it because she's basically saying that she does not want it. So until she steps up and asks for the rematch and you know, wants to make it happen, then I'm going to make other plans for myself.
Also, Mikaela, there was a lot of talk about who Katie Taylor would face next up until the Amanda Serrano rematch was confirmed again, going back to New York. Your name was actually in, you know, whether it be in the running or it was mentioned alongside other names. Do you have any knowledge as to whether or not you were maybe close to it? How seriously you were being considered?
Close to, for what, the Katie Taylor
potential
fight?
Katie Taylor fight, yeah.
You know, at this point, I think that Katie Taylor has to want it. You know, I know it would have been probably a lot easier to make that fight if I would have gotten the decision against Baumgardner. It would have been a lot easier. But, you know, I know Eddie has the other girls on that list. You know, he has Chantel, he has Baumgardner. And so I think it would be up to someone like either Katie Taylor to say, you know, I want that fight with Mikaela Mayer because I think the fans want it. I think I've heard a lot of people talk about it. They've been talking about it for years. And you know, that, and or just make myself mandatory somehow. I know I'm already ranked at 135, and like I said, I'm not going to fight anyone who's not top ranked. So becoming, you know, mandatory for her is not out of the question. I just got to continue to fight the best and take on tough fights and get my ranking up there.
Mikaela, just on Taylor-Serrano too, what is your take on it?
So when I originally watched that fight in person, I didn't have the best view. It was kind of like in the corner and you're down here. I really don't know why they put the judges down here. It's the worst. I've always said they should raise them like bird's eye view. They should be up there looking down at the fight. But I thought I had Serrano winning. But going back and watching that fight, I realized that from that bird's eye view that Serrano was just a little bit short with all her punches, and Katie was sort of boxing and moving pretty nicely. So I gave her the fight after I counted the rounds. I gave the fight to Katie Taylor. Serrano definitely had her moments, and she's definitely obviously strong and capable of stopping Katie. We saw that. but I just think that she adapts so well. You know, she has so much experience coming up in the amateurs and going up against so many different styles that she really is really, really great at adapting to her opponent. So the fact that they've already been in there and that element of surprise is sort of gone, I feel like she'll make the proper adjustments to make sure she makes that win even more clear. But then, you know, Serrano always has the puncher chance, but I think I'll have to go with Katie.
Mikaela, just final thing I want to get your thoughts on. I don't know if you've seen much of it over social media. Is you know, Savannah Marshall and Claressa Shields kind of reigniting their rivalry again. What have been your thoughts on seeing their rivalry unfold? And Savannah Marshall's recent comments saying that the tactics that Peter Fury had set up for her weren't necessarily the correct way to go about trying to defeat Claressa when they fought last year.
I mean, I think that's a accurate assessment of her performance. You know, there's things she could have done to outbox Claressa for, you know, using her height and reach a little bit more. I think that would be the main thing. But you know, they have that rematch. They're smart. They're going to capitalize on the rematch that, you know, had 20,000 attendees and 2 million views. If Baumgardner was smart, which she's not, she would be on board as well. But it's going to take her a little bit more time. Savannah and Claressa realize that this type of rivalry maybe will only come once in someone's career or lifetime. So they're going to capitalize on it. And most of all, the fans want to see it. So why wouldn't you give it to them? You know, it's like, I've been saying this, like me and Baumgardner are like a stock, right? But we keep rising, we're an investment that just keeps rising. Like, you don't cash out when your stock is moving like this. Like, you continue to make money and capitalize on that investment. So it's obvious to me. And Savannah and Claressa they're just businesswomen doing what they're doing, and they're doing it right.
Mikaela, that was going to be the final one. I'm going to squeeze one more out of you, just because it's happening this weekend. He's got the boxing world talking. Tommy Fury and Jake Paul. Who comes out on top?
I got a little heat for this, but and this is just going based off of the last 2 fights that I saw from them. I think Jake Paul is going to take it. I know that Tommy Fury may have more experience, but I don't necessarily think that his skill level is where it needs to be yet. He's still young. He's still not that experienced. And I think that he's beatable. I think that Jake Paul is really, really hungry. He's got a lot to prove, and he's got the power, and he's been working hard. And I think that he's got a lot of hate and bad rep for how he came up in the sport. But at the end of the day, I think he's working really hard and hungry and ready to prove that he belongs with the best of us. So I just wasn't super impressed with Tommy Fury's performance or his skill level. And so I think that it's very possible that Jake Paul beats him.
So you've edged towards Jake. Will that be on a points win, or will it be finished within the distance?
I don't know. I have Jake winning, but I don't know how. I don't know if the knockouts. He's got the power for the knockout. He's proven that. It could very easily end in a knockout.
Right, Mikaela, we will leave that there now and leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate it, Tom. It's always good to catch up with you, and I'll see you over here come April 15th. Thank you for speaking to me and ID Boxing.
All right, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.